And good evening, everybody. Welcome here as we get ready for race number 10 of the season for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go. Time to do some short track racing here tonight at the Richmond International Raceway as we get ready for the Anything with a GoPro 125. Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, I mean, at this point in time, the question has really been who can beat Derek Justice and Blake Reynolds, but it looks like some of these go-or-go homers are starting to answer that call.
Yeah, I mean, it always has been either Blake Reynolds or Derek Justice or a go-or-go homer that comes in that just shows up and dominates the race. So it's going to be interesting to see as up front, we've got the 40 machine of Alt, who's on pole at the moment as we're doing group qualifying with about 35 seconds left in group qualifying. So a lot of these guys trying to get out, run down their fastest lap.
Right now, Alt and a go-or-go homer in Jim Caudle Jr., who I believe is actually making his first start of the season, right now would sit here in front row. And I kind of look at this racetrack in particular, similar to two tracks we've been to in the past on the schedule. One of them being Rockingham, based on how abrasive this track is on tires. The other one being Phoenix. And the two drivers that really ran well at those two tracks, Michael Cozy Jr. has been up there in speed and practice, right now sitting 7th on the board in qualifying. He was the Phoenix winner. And I'm also looking at the 18 of Graham Boland, who actually ran up in the top 5 for most of the Rockingham race.
Yeah, and up front, who just got up to 2nd on the board right at the end, it's going to be Blake Reynolds. So still dominant car up front. Something to watch out for, though, like you said about Rockingham with tires, you have to be very careful with them and keep them as fresh as possible. That's something about this track that's going to be very difficult. The setup that we have at Richmond tonight, it's going to be loose, it's going to be slick, and those tires are not going to last very long.
How about a brand new pole sitter here this evening as we're going to have the number 50 of Cody Kelly on the pole position alongside of Blake Reynolds. I mean, we saw Brandon Hawken as a go-or-go homer last week at Spa. We saw back at Phoenix a go-or-go homer, Michael Cozy Jr. That could be the guy we're looking at that could play spoiler for the two guys that have been so dominant this season.
It's honestly been so surprising to see these go-go homers just show up the way that they do. Some of these guys they've just been trying out for this one race, and some other people, they've been trying all season long to get into these featured races, and they finally do, and then they show up. I got a question, though. Blake Reynolds starting up front. He's got to be the car to watch out for, but Cody Kelly will get in the pole. That's amazing to see.
Absolutely. We should also point out that there's been a little bit of a change as far as the playoff grid looks like coming into this race because Michael Cozy Jr., who got that win back at Phoenix, his goal then was to make it up into the top 25 in points. He has done that. He is 25th in the standings coming to this race, which means two things. Number one, he is now playoff eligible. And number two, he's in the top 25 in points, which means if he can remain up there, he's locked into future races, does not have to go through knockout qualifying.
It's a big props to him. It was a battle last week at Spa. A lot of machines were having rough days, and last week was a fun race just to watch in general as they finished in the nighttime. Can't say under the lights because there were no lights really for those cars to race under.
All right, so let's talk about the track. Richmond International Raceway. These drivers are going to be starting this 125-lap event in the twilight hours here. Still a little bit of heat in the track, and they'll be finishing it towards the nighttime conditions. So with the changing track, what do these guys got to do to make sure that their car is going to handle not only at the beginning, but the end of the race?
Honestly, the beginning of the race is going to be the most difficult. The tires are going to be something to watch out for just because how loose this track is going to be feeling just because of the heat on the track. Later on in the race, it's going to get a little bit easier to hold on to your car. Everything's going to cool off, and your tire wear isn't going to be as aggressive, but it's still going to be tough. This setup is extremely loose. Most of the drivers that I've talked to, they are saying it's one of the loosest cars they've had to drive almost all season long. So it's going to be tough for these guys up here.
And you brought up a point before we came on the air that these guys, fuel-wise, they can make it on just one pit stop, but more than likely, because of how this track is with the heavy braking zones into 1 and 3, tires may call them to pit road one more time than that.
Yeah, it's going to be risky just to see these guys when they're out here, if they have a long green flag run and they only need to pit once, they should only have to pit once just because of fuel, but tire-wise, they're dropping about a second on their times after just about 25 laps or so. So it's going to be tough to see as the car's getting ready to go.
We go 125 laps. Actually, this is considered a short track, so they actually do have a second pace lap that they get to run here. So right now, if you look up here towards the front of the field, you've got Blake Reynolds there in the 3rd position. Derek Justice looks like he's going to be starting this race back around the 12th position. These two right now, it's basically been a back and forth between the two of them, and right now what they're battling for are playoff points. Every time that you get a win, you get extra points towards the postseason. So, I mean, how aggressive do you think these guys are going to be here, especially early on? Or do you think they'd be the ones you'd consider to kind of hang back, save their tires, and wait for the long run near the end?
I'm expecting to see Derek Justice move up pretty quick, and I'm expecting Blake Reynolds to try to get in the lead as soon as possible just because he's on the front row.
Here we go then. Pole sitter Cody Kelly's going to lead the field to green here, and we're underway in the Anything with a GoPro 125.
Cody Kelly going to be trying to pull away as much as possible, but the action's going to be for 3rd as you got the 15 machine and the 40 side by side.
And Alt trying to make his way around Caudle Jr. He will clear. That opens the door down low now for Graham Boland to make a move. Then they're 3 wide further back. Someone was way up the track off of turn 4, as it looks like they're all going to at least complete the first lap under green, but this is a short track, and very much like normal short tracks, you get trapped in that outside line, you're going to go backwards pretty quickly.
Yeah, they are. I mean, up front with our leader, Cody Kelly, he got the pole, and he was the 2nd fastest during practice, so he's got a fast machine, and he can probably hold it off for most of this race.
2 laps completed here under green, and a lot of times, you know, you talked about the track conditions coming in, the setup and everything. Usually that's a bit of a wake-up call for the drivers that you gotta take it easy early on. So I'm not surprised to see that we are still green up to this point.
Spencer Freak got a little loose coming out of turn number 2, got a little jacked up, and then he blinked a little bit, so everyone, the drivers didn't actually know where he was. Scary moment for these cars, but he's still running.
And they were almost 3 wide there with Michael Cozy Jr. on the outside. That's Joey Bailey, the 19, down on the inside line. Right now a battle between himself and Freak for the 8th position, and there is the 31 of Derek Justice looming there just inside the top 10, trying to kind of patiently work his way up through the field.
The car that got loose off 2 is going to be 38 of Shane Terry, and he's someone who was just struggling to keep his tires under him, but luckily he's still running forward and stuck on the outside.
Shane Terry in the 38 and Bronson Stafford, the 61, Sky Motorsports teammates, both running the namesake sponsor on their Toyotas. As it looks like Tyrion stuck on that outside line is going to lose a position to Travis Brown, and now he's got Sean Butler in the 35 underneath him. Butler had a great run going back at Rockingham, so you know those type of tracks like Rockingham and Phoenix, you got to think in some way they carry over the experience these drivers have gotten to be able to apply in some aspects to this Richmond Raceway track.
7 laps into the books. It's something we've really noticed, and it's been at all the short tracks. If you're stuck on the high side, you're gonna fall back. And sticking on the low side, that's what Cody Kelly up front's been doing, sticking to the yellow line every single time he comes into these corners, not drifting up at all. And that's something we're probably going to see most of the night, is the fastest car staying at the bottom.
Kelly about maybe 2.5 car lengths ahead of Blake Reynolds, who then has another 2 car lengths back to Dylan Alt. Things are stacked up from 4th place on back, though. That's where Graham Boland's fighting off a charge from Brian Mercurio and Michael Cozy Jr.
Cozy Jr. looks like he is hungry to start moving. He's trying to figure out a line to run besides what everyone else is, as he's one of the few cars that's running slightly higher than the yellow line and trying to get the momentum off the corner.
Now, would there be an advantage of maybe trying to run that higher line to save tires here?
It could be, but usually when you're running a little higher than everyone else, you're using your tires up just a little bit more. I think more so he's running up high, just trying to get some type of momentum to get around these 2 machines.
Now, we had 43 cars, a full field, take the green here today. And as we mentioned at the top of the program, Richmond is considered a short track. So another aspect of this race, as we've been able to complete 9 laps under green flag conditions, those race leaders, yes, they've broken away from 4th place right now, but momentarily they may start catching up to the tail end of the field.
Yeah, If we stay green, I'm expecting us to see a lot of action with lap traffic in the next 15 to 20 laps, as our leader is running up almost a second faster than the cars that are in the back.
And here at Derek Justice, he has worked his way now to the 8th position, but really it seems like here at Richmond you're not going to really be able to make a pass in the corner unless you get some momentum on the straightaway, and right now nobody really seems to be able to get that straightaway speed. I'm looking at, you mentioned with Michael Cozy Jr. running that slightly higher line. I thought maybe he was doing that to get some better straightaway speed, but even there he's not quite able to get the run to make a move on Brian Mercurio.
No, he's really not been able to get the momentum that he wants. And it looks like he's also getting a little bit better of a middle part of the corner. He's, with entering much higher than everyone else, he's able to hit the apex a little bit lower, trying to get as much as he can, but just being stuck behind everyone else. You have to brake just a little bit sooner than everyone else. And I'm expecting the 41 really to use his bumper soon, if the 18 continues running the way he is.
Richmond is what they consider a rhythm track. You basically have to know exactly the time to coast it into the corner, exactly the time to pick up the throttle. And I'm not certain if this 18 is maybe holding these guys up. I mean, nobody's been able to really get a run on him to make a pass, but at the same time, he continues to have them on his back bumper. So I don't know if it's just the fact these guys are all running very evenly as far as the speed in their cars, the way they're approaching the corners, or if these guys are starting to get frustrated with Boland maybe wadding them up and allowing the top 3 to scamper away.
I mean, just the fact that everyone's starting to cluster more and more into this top group for battle for 4th, it just seems like the 18 is holding everyone else up. And we've seen Michael Cozy, who's the fastest in practice, and he's trying to make moves, but not being able to really go anywhere because the low line is the preferred line. You can't make too many passes on the outside until maybe later on in the night when that groove starts to come in.
And Boland's best finish of the season was a 2nd place finish. That was at the Homestead Miami Road Course. To this guy, 2nd place running Blake Reynolds. Now the count right now between himself and Derek Justice 4 wins, Blake Reynolds 2. And you kind of get the feeling that Blake Reynolds wants to even the score a little bit here.
Yeah, I would imagine he would want to. I mean, it would help out dramatically with points later on in the season for the chase, or just helping in general to get up front. A car that had issues, though, is Tyler Price, all the way back to 41st. He's in the pits. It looked like he hit the wall hard, and now is in the pits trying to get it repaired.
Tyler had to make his way in through go or go home qualifying, as did our race leader Cody Kelly. And we mentioned this is his first start on the season, so I don't necessarily know where a win would put him in points, but you'd have to kind of wonder if he wins here today, if he closes out the deal, if he would have to endeavor on the road that Michael Cozy Jr. did, get the win first and then try and work your way up into the top 25 in points.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a win here at a short track, it really helps you to want to, gives you momentum and also the motivation to continue racing and try to make it into the top 25 to continue being able to race and not have to battle for the LCQ.
Looking in terms of lap times, it looks like Blake Reynolds is faster, but not by much. And that little teeny tiny bit of an advantage doesn't usually mean that much at a short track, as caution is out first time today.
Caution is out. It looks like it's going to be the 42 machine that's spinning around on the front stretch.
Tyler Claybaugh, who comes into this race, if I'm not mistaken, in a playoff position. No, I'm sorry. Actually, he is just barely inside the top 25 in points. He's 22nd in the standings. And he had a little bit of an adventure there through the infield grass. We'll go back and see what happened there.
The one thing with Claybaugh's incident here is he didn't hit the wall in any fashion. Luckily, didn't get any damage, and I think he drove slow enough in the grass where there wasn't any suspension issues that would have caused this car to have any damage in that sorts. It just looked like he lost it coming off the corner.
Doesn't look like there was any contact with anybody else either as the car came to rest down on the apron. He didn't even go down and hit the inside wall there in the infield grass. So, two fortunate things as well. One, nobody hit him. And two, you kind of saw in the background there, the race leader had not passed him. So he remains on the lead lap.
On pit road right now, it's going to be all the cars that were on the lead lap, which was everyone. But the car that's going to win out and get up front through pits, it's going to be Blake Reynolds.
I'm looking here in terms of the pit stop times. I almost wonder if there may have just been some two-tire pit stops because, 4-second pit stop for Blake Reynolds, 4.1 for Cody Kelly.
I believe it was 14.5 for both. They both got four tires. They both came in for fresh rubber. I'm not imagining anyone really would be taking two tires on this course. It's very difficult to do two-tire stop just because of how much the rubber just drops off with these machines. As Blake Reynolds, he won out just because he drove straight. Instead of trying to go around Cody Kelly during these pits, he just drove straight through his car and got an extra second that he beat out the 5 machine out here.
Talked about the fact that Blake Reynolds trying to tie Derek Justice for most wins here this season. And here's a look at what your point standings look like coming into this race. The guys that are highlighted in yellow are those that currently hold playoff spots. You've got your top 10 up there right now. Of course, Justice and Reynolds, the only two locked in through wins. And if you look down there from 20th down through 25th, that's where you've got your Daytona winner, Kane Cook, and your Phoenix winner, Michael Cozy Jr. As long as they are inside the top 25 in points, their wins do count towards spots in the playoffs. So, as we continue to progress through the season, we saw Brandon Hawken take the checkered flag back at Spa. If we continue to see these drivers that are go-or-go-homers be able to get wins, move themselves up there in the playoffs, that's going to put a lot of pressure on those guys that are 8th, 9th, 10th in the point standings.
Yeah, you gotta keep having these consistent runs after getting a win, and you gotta make sure that you're up there challenging these people that don't, and forcing them to have to possibly get a win or just finish better.
Lights are going to go out atop the pace truck this time. We will go back green. We managed to run 22 laps there on that first run, so it'll be interesting to see if these guys are again going to settle into a long green flag run. You kind of get the feeling that these guys are definitely waiting until the tires build up as far as heat, allow them a little bit more grip, get themselves a little bit tighter with the way the looseness of the setup is. But you kind of get the sense, like at most short tracks, that when we get down to the end of this race, like maybe the last 50 laps, maybe even as far down as the last 20 laps, these guys, they're going to be going for broke, and we may see more yellows.
Honestly, I'm very proud of these guys that are racing right now as we're getting ready to go green here with Blake Reynolds. He's getting a fantastic start, jacking everyone else up, and just getting an amazing about 2 lengths on everyone else.
Going to make the battle be for second. Cody Kelly on the top side, Graham Boland on the inside line. They're stacked up behind them with Michael Cozy Jr. and Dylan Alt 3 wide. Further back, got some cars stepping out. I think that was Shane Terrian in the 38 looking low, and I think I saw the 91 of Philip Kraus looking low back there as well.
Yeah, I got to say, though, on the start, it looked like Cozy Jr. was pushing the 18 machine, Bolden all the way up to second place, ready to just keep moving as we're seeing Cody Kelly drifting on back.
Another thing that I've noticed here too, we're not at Darlington, but I'm seeing a lot of guys go up there and brush that outside wall. A lot of sparks off of 2, a lot of sparks off of 4, but nothing that looks like it's going to be in any way detrimental to the speed in these race cars.
No, I mean, you can raise the wall just a little bit. You don't want to completely pancake your machine, though, coming off of either 2 or 4. You just got to be careful as we're seeing battles win out for 3rd and battles going on back at like 7th.
Cozy and Kelly side by side for the 3rd position. Cody Kelly has finally gotten himself down to the inside line after being stuck on the outside of the front row for that restart. Another driver that I'm starting to see slowly creep his way up into the top 10, and we were looking at him here pre-race. A guy that had a great run going at Rockingham, a track similar to the type of racing we're seeing here today, and that is the 36 of Brandon McKissick. He's been able to work his way up into the top 10, now trying to take the 8th position away from Joey Bailey, might even try and take 7th from Dylan Alt.
Yeah, McKissick started started back in about 14th. Now working his way up to 8th. So good run so far. Also, pit stops helped him a lot.
Boy, that was interesting. I don't know if someone got loose or if there was a block being thrown there between Jim Caudle Jr. and Derek Justice, but those two nearly wrecked coming off of turn 2 on the last lap. Justice now finally can complete the pass and move into the top 5.
Could have been just the fact that these cars are getting so loose off the corner. I'm noticing that coming off of at least 2, a little bit off 4, but mainly I've been seeing cars off of 2 getting extremely loose, getting wiggly, and just trying to make sure that they're not spinning their cars around.
Side by side, it's going to be back here for the 8th position. That's Sean Butler on the bottom, trying to get by Dylan Alt, who's just trying to find a space in line to the inside. Spencer Preet there as well in the 37, as well as the 91 of Philip Kraus, the 19 of Joey Bailey. But up front, top 6, 7 cars are all single file.
You know, I was saying the 18 might have been holding cars up. He might have been just saving, like, possibly could have been just saving his tires for that long run, as he's still staying close with Blake Reynolds, and Reynolds really isn't pulling away as much as I thought he would be.
Yeah, but at the same time, Cody Kelly, who's finally been able to get himself clear of traffic on the inside, he's all over the back bumper of Graham Boland, trying to take that 2nd position away. And I realize it's 34 laps in, but at a short track, when you know you're faster than the car ahead of you, how difficult is it to have patience?
Oh, and patience is going to be key here. You got to realize, yes, it's still a long race. You just got to make sure that if the car that you're trying to chase, which is Blake Reynolds, that this 18 machine doesn't hold you up too much. As he's probably just saying, hey, we're still close. I don't need to push my car that much. I could save my tires so later on, maybe these guys have already wasted all their stuff and I can just pass them later on in the run.
The driver charging his way through the field. Didn't really see a lot of speed out of him in practice, but then again, he didn't go out and turn that many laps, and that's Kevin McAdams, who just now made a pass for 12th place on Joey Bailey. So that chase number 26 Chevrolet is looking awfully good, as he's now going to try and see if he can make a move on Philip Kraus.
Joey Bailey's he's been stuck on the outside. There's just no space for him to come down, as he has been dropping back. I think he was around about 8th place, and he's just been stuck on the top this whole entire time, not able to find any room to come down.
Travis Brown now to his inside, right behind him, David Shieldhouse, Chris Owens there as well in the 45. It's just a long line of cars that are waiting to jump to the inside of the 19, and he's just hoping for a car length of space to duck down there to the inside line, but right now not finding it. Ooh, I think he's just barely going to squeeze there in front of Shieldhouse, so he will fall back as far as 14th. Now as he moves to the inside, he's going to try and climb his way back up through the field.
Moving up to 4th place, Derek Justice making a move on Cozy Jr. And now Cozy Jr. stuck on the high side, as he's got the number 15 right under him.
And behind them, you've got Jim Caudle Jr. So Cozy trying to quickly maybe let the 15 car by so that he can tuck back in line. And right now, I think the big thing for Michael Cozy Jr. is just leave Richmond with a good finish, because he's already been successful in getting the win at Phoenix. He's also been successful in getting himself up into the top 25 in the point standings. So, you know, as long as he continues to have runs like this, there's no doubt that the consistency is going to get him into the playoffs.
Up front are top 3, still pulling away. And it looks like Cody Kelly is trying to push the Boland just a little bit faster down the straightaway, maybe a little in the corners, just trying to get him closer to Blake Reynolds to maybe make a move, as those 3 are getting closer and closer to one another.
It certainly looks like Blake Reynolds is trying to run it as hard as he can, but at the same time, you almost wonder if he might be saving, because we didn't really see him even be able to put up that much of a challenge on Cody Kelly on the first green flag run. So it makes me wonder if the 50 rather, can get around Graham Boland for 2nd place, if he's got something to challenge Blake Reynolds for the race lead.
We have to wait and see, but I think Cody Kelly right now just running behind the 18 machine. I think he might be trying to save his stuff. I mean, yes, he's running low, but his car's not drifting up like we're seeing Blake Reynolds' car drifting up just slightly above the yellow line.
I'm looking back through the field, and a couple of guys that are really faded back, and I don't know what happened to them. One of them was up there towards the front in that early stage, and that's the second place finisher from last week at Spa. Brian Mercurio is all the way back in 27th place, so I don't know if they had a slow pit stop and that put him back in traffic or what, but all of a sudden it was looking like a top 10 run. He's got a lot of work to do.
Looking at his machine, it looks like it's still clean. It might have been just because he was stuck on the high side for so long that he lost a ton of positions. His car looks clean. Pit stop time over the yellow looks all right. It possibly could have just been that his car is just not feeling secure at the moment.
We're watching a battle right here, 26th, 27th, and 28th. And believe it or not, those are three drivers that come into this race currently in playoff positions: Mercurio, Boland, and Frisch. And not too far behind them, you've got 30th place Andrew Schwartz. That's four drivers that came into this race in playoff spots, and they're struggling here today at Richmond.
Yeah, it's hard to... Whoa, up front of Mercurio,
Wow.
we were seeing almost 3-wide action as it is getting tight in front of these machines.
For a moment there, it looked like a battle for the lead between Graham Boland and Cody Kelly. That's because the three of Blake Reynolds blinked out for a moment. When he reappeared, it almost looked like Boland was going to be to his inside. But yeah, these guys, they're still so close together. And don't look now, but if these guys start racing it up, check out who's in that fourth position. Derek Justice, only maybe about 8 car lengths back. He could get up here and make it a 4-man fight.
Just waiting and lingering, hoping that maybe someone up there is going to make a mistake. As Boland gonna be diving it low and having the aid of the 5 machine, as they are basically right on top of one another, pushing each other as hard as they can.
And you saw right there with Blake Reynolds, and he's going to do it again. He's going to kind of pinch down on the passenger side door of Graham Boland. And what he's doing there is he's trying to not allow the 18 to get back to the throttle. If he pushes up, it's going to lose him momentum. But looks like Boland was able to forge his way through. Cody Kelly moves to second. And I think that was a bit of a smart decision on Reynolds' part, because with him tucking back in line in third, that allows him to not get freight trained if Justice and Cottle Jr. caught up.
I think Blake Reynolds thought he was faster than the 18 machine, but did not when he challenged the 5 and possibly ruining more of his tires. Saw that he lost the position, thought he'd just give it up. Wasn't any space for it. As Cody Kelly is still on the bumper of that 18 machine and hasn't really left that position since the drop of the green flag.
Absolutely not. To your point earlier, he's been pushing him through the corners, talking about Cody Kelly to race leader Graham Boland. We had that caution come out, I think it was on lap 22. These guys have been out there for the longest run so far, 28 laps completed. With that being said, and we know that they were able to make it on one stop, does that change up their strategy at all, where even tires-wise, they probably can make it on one stop now?
From here on out, possibly. It's going to be close for these cars, as there's a caution now.
Why did I even ask the question?
There's a cluster of cars piled all the way up, back at about 23rd and on back, as this is a huge pile up for these machines.
The Brandon Schmidt involved in that one, Cosmonish Shinoshu, Warren Keith was in that one too, and a whole bunch of other ones. Grant Brown, I think I saw in the 52. That's another thing about Richmond, and there's still cars not facing the correct way back there. It's the, I believe it's the 87 of Adam Baker, the 67 of Andrew Schwartz. The 47 Warren Keith backed up, and he's waiting for these guys to get themselves turned back around. But with Richmond, it happens so quick, and there's not a whole lot of room to be able to make your way through a wreck, especially there where you've got the pit wall starting and the outside wall. Things can get very congested. A lot of front-end damage there on one of the GoPro cars. I think that might be... I believe that's 61 of Bronson. No, that's actually the 38, Shane Therian.
Yeah, it went back, saw where this all started. It starts with Shieldhouse and also with Andrew Schwartz. I mean, not Brandon Schmidt. Those two got involved with one another, entering turn number 3, and there was nothing that the rest of the back could do.
Brandon Schmidt made his way in through go or go home qualifying. Another driver that was involved in the contact, the 45 of Owens. He was another driver that made it in through knockout queues. We'll take a look here into 3 at what happened. And there you see it, a lot of times, different braking zones here. Looks like the 20 may have actually gone down and hit those water barrels there, or those sand barrels. Jake Poulin was able to stop like Franklin Ash, Justin Malello, they were able to stop to go around. And you can see right there the green machine that was on the left side of your screen. That was race leader, the 18 of Boland, as well as the 50 back there of Kelly. They were just behind this, waiting for everybody to kind of get their cars righted and drive away from the scene of the accident.
Yeah, I mean, the most difficult thing about that accident is all the cars that stopped were right in the racing line, and there was nowhere for anyone that was on the bottom to go. If you were actually stuck on the high side, you kind of felt safe. You could move up and try to get out of the way, but some of the cars that tried to get out of the way got a little bit of damage here and there. A lot of machines that started about at 16th position on back all got pushed back.
Now, normally at the short tracks, depending on how much damage you've got, it may not necessarily affect you, but Richmond, even though it's a short track, it's got those pretty long front and back straightaways, so it certainly would, in essence, hurt your speed on the straightaways, I would think.
I mean, if you're having any damage on the front end, there's a chance that, or any arrow-wise, there is a chance that it could be messing with your speed on the straightaways. It might not be any damage on the front end, though. It could be messing with your cornering, also a possible chance of engine and power loss. So any front end damage is not what you want to see. Side damage you can work with, but a lot of machines are totally scrapped because of that.
Got some guys here that are trapped behind the pace truck, and I don't know if they are considered wave-around drivers or not. Brandon Schmidt, Andrew Schwartz, Adam Baker, and I believe that's the 48 of Andy Margo up there as well. We'll see when the lights go out if they are actually able to go around and get their lap back, but the way they'll line up here for this restart, as everybody was back on pit road again here under this caution. It's going to be Graham Boland, the race leader. Cody Kelly lines up on his outside in second. Blake Reynolds third. Derek Justice fourth. Jim Cottle Jr. will complete the top five. And you got Michael Cozy Jr., Brandon McKissick, Philip Kraus. First time we've kind of mentioned his name today. He's going to restart eighth with Kevin McAdams and Spencer Preet. That's going to be your top 10, as we're going to be going back green somewhere in the vicinity of a little bit less than 70 laps to go.
Just looking at the times for the top 10 drivers for pits, it looked like Blake Reynolds had the slowest time out of everyone with a 15.1 pit stop, and so that's where he lost all his time. The front, Boland's going to be pushing as hard as he can once the pace car pulled off, and he is all by himself, and now the battle is for third.
Cody Kelly got himself a good jump, but Blake Reynolds was able to draw even with him by the time they got into turn one. So I was kind of wondering if Kelly could get clear, what he'd be able to do with the 18. Now he's battling side by side with Reynolds. Derek Justice waiting to see which line will move as he's riding in that fourth position, and they're battling almost three wide behind him there with Spencer Preet looking low.
Got to give it up to Kelly. I'm surprised how long he's been staying side by side with Reynolds. Thought he would have dropped by now, but Derek Justice being up here in fourth. He's just waiting. He's trying to stay right on the back bumper of the three machines so that he can try to get by and secure third.
And they are blocking, banging doors from sixth place on back. Brandon McKissick and Spencer Preet, they were leaning on each other in turn one a lap ago. Michael Cozy Jr. threw a big block on Spencer Preet, as right now Derek Justice is going to try and get around Cody Kelly for third place. And the bad news for Kelly right now is there's a line of cars back behind him trying to advance one more position at his expense.
As Cody Kelly finally going to drop back behind the 31 machine of Derek Justice. It looked like Blake Reynolds actually pulled up in front of Kelly when he made the pass. Slowed up just a little bit to give Justice time to get under the 5 machine, and then passed up.
Kevin McAdams side by side with Philip Kraus. That's just inside the top 10 for ninth. Going to clear for the spot is Dylan Alt. Now we'll look for the 10th position on the 91 machine. Driver that's actually worked his way up here. I noticed, I think he restarted 12th, currently 13th. How about another go-homer? The 79.
In the back. Looks like it is the 38 possibly of Harrion. I saw him running slow, but I could be wrong about this. It was the 38 machine.
Second caution he's been involved in here tonight. And we'll go back and see what happened to the GoPro Toyota. Like it was just a solo spin, nobody around him, just lost grip in the rear of the car.
I mean, it doesn't help that this setup is already loose, but having this damage and really not the aero package you want, I'm imagining that it's still very hard to drive this car right now.
And we'll see. You could start to see it's getting a little bit darker. The sun is starting to go down behind the back straightaway grandstand. So as we get closer and closer to the end of this race, I don't necessarily know if it's going to be dark long enough for it to really affect the track temperature, but if for nothing else, the visibility for these guys, it'll help out, I guess, a bit.
Yeah, I got to be careful of any glare that comes in while we're seeing all the drivers pull down, except for Derek Justice, who's going to be one of the cars staying out. So is going to be Cozy, also Spencer Preet, and a ton of other machines staying out while you got the other half coming in and get fresh rubber.
And I find this interesting because we mentioned the two tracks previously in the schedule that this track is somewhat similar to, Rockingham and Phoenix. These are the two guys that took the checker flags at those two tracks. Justice won at Rockingham, Cozy won at Phoenix. And if I recall correctly, basically staying out was their race-winning moves. Michael Cozy Jr. stayed out on a late race caution, was able to hold off Derek Justice at Phoenix. Derek Justice, near the midway point of the Rockingham race, stayed out. He was in control of all the restarts after that and eventually went on to get the checkered flag. So, very interesting this. These top two that are some of the ones that decide to roll the dice, keep the track position over the tires.
Gotta put this in perspective. All the drivers that have come in now, they should be good to the end. So that is something to put in. All the drivers that are still out, they have to come in, I believe, one more time, just because of tires, let alone fuel to watch out for.
So we had a total of 11 cars that decided to stay out. Derek Justice, Michael Cozy Jr., as well as Spencer Preet, Brandon McKissick, Kevin McAdams, Joey Bailey, Harry Tiller, who I was going to say before that caution came out has been having a good run there as a go-or-go-home driver. Jacob Fisher, Travis Brown, Grant Brown, and Chris Owens. Those are your top. Oh, actually, nope. Actually, check one of those off of there. Actually, only the top 10 is Chris Owens brings the 45 to pit road this time. So only 10 drivers are risking staying out on what is going to be somewhere around 15 lap old tires over the rest of the field.
Gotta wonder though. I've seen the tire drop off. It's been drastic. Are these drivers feeling confident that have stayed out, that there are enough people that stayed out, that these front guys feel confident that they can just keep on running? I mean, we've seen that the slower machines have been able to hold off everyone if you're able to stay down low and not make a mistake of drifting up too much in the corner. Gotta wonder, did Derek Justice and Cozy Jr. and everyone else that stayed out here, did they make the right move, or is tires going to be too much to hold off with these fresher machines?
I'll tell you who I'd be worried about for right now. Well, pretty much 5 drivers there that are going to start in that outside line because not only are they on old tires, but they're going to be up in the line that really has not been able to produce any speed. There has not early on been any second lane here at Richmond. So if they can't get themselves down to the bottom quickly, I see those guys definitely dropping back outside of the top 10, maybe even the top 20 with the older tires.
I think I got my eye on Cozy Jr. He's got to get a good run where he can kind of get in front of third place is Spencer Preet. He needs to get able to drop down low as fast as possible. Everyone else is going to be pretty difficult, but your goal up here in the top 10 of cars that stayed out is to get to that low line as fast as possible and don't drop back the fresher tires from 11th on back.
But we got to remind everybody, too, as we got it 3 wide back there, Graham Boland on those fresh tires was thinking about picking up 2 spots there in 2 corners. But we got to remind everybody, as far as the situation of Michael Cozy Jr., caution's out. But I was going to say, Cozy could move down to the inside line if he was clear on Spencer Preet, but only after the start-finish line. If he had done it before, it would have been called a lane change. He would have had to EOL. So that's something that guys that are on the outside of the front row have to keep in the back of their minds.
The drivers are taking off. There's a slight glitch going on, but we are green at the moment as they are starting to wreck in the back.
And it looks like Brian Mercurio was the reason for this caution, a guy that came in a playoff spot and second last week at Spa. Go back and see what happened to him.
Looks like it was Kraus that got into the wall and bounced off and came down on Mercurio.
Yep, you are absolutely right. Kraus, who comes into this race 5th in the overall standings, also currently in a playoff spot. And is that Kyle Riley back there? I think in the 62 got a piece of that also.
I think Kyle Riley just saw what was going on and just pulled down as quick as he could to not get involved. I don't think he hit anything.
If he did, it was minimal damage with maybe the right front of his Outback Steakhouse Toyota. We're actually going to go on board with him and see what he saw, as he did a heck of a job avoiding that, not only avoiding the wreck, but avoiding hitting that inside wall as well.
That was a wild, different start.
Right now, as things stand, I mean, you mentioned about, the question mark about those 10 guys that stayed out. Right now, the cautions are their best friends.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that stayed out, they didn't lose any positions on that restart. They all still stayed in the top 10. Gotta wonder, is anyone going to come down and change their tires, or are they going to stick to their guns?
Well, I think at least top 5, 6, maybe 7, I think they will not give up the track position. One thing that caution coming out actually benefited was Michael Cozy Jr., because yes, he did lose a position there on that run just before the caution came out, but the good news is he dropped from second back to third, which means he's going to be restarting second on the inside line now. Spencer Preet is going to be the one that's going to have to worry about trying to get himself back down to the inside line, as he's going to be on the outside of the front row when we eventually go back green.
Yeah, it's the same story as last restart. All the drivers that have stayed out so far, they got to get to the low side as quick as possible. And even if you need to let the car go that's below you, let him go. You got to keep the positioning as much as you can and try to save your tires as much as you can as well.
Still a long ways to go in this season as well. We're running our 10th race of the season here, but look at what's going to be coming up here as far as the FTF Grand National Series schedule. We've got Talladega Superspeedway coming up next week. Following week, STN's got it at the Monster Mile, and then we're back at Irwindale, as well as the Circuit Giles Villanueva, which is also known as Montreal. And then you got STN for 3 weeks. We'll be back at Lucas Oil, but I'm looking at a lot of these tracks, and a lot of these tracks like Charlotte, Michigan, Chicagoland, the one thing that they all say to me, fuel strategy races.
Yeah, I mean, those are going to be fuel strategy races. I think the races I've got circled has got to be Montreal and Talladega. Those are 2 races that you can see some of these guys that need to get a win, they could possibly get it at those racetracks just because of how much of a wild card they are.
And next week as well, as we'll have the call at Talladega, it is a themed race. It is a driver's faces race, kind of, I guess, playing off of the Corey LaJoie scheme that he ran back at Daytona that had his face on it. So that's going to be interesting to see what kind of schemes these guys come up with next week.
It will, as Derek Justice going to be checking everyone up, and I saw a couple of cars run up into one another as Derek Justice going to get a clean run, and we're going to see Cozy Jr. getting a fantastic jump and staying right there with Spencer Preet.
They are 3 wide back there with Travis Brown, that bright pink machine. Someone just got the wall off of turn 2, no surprise, because Richmond isn't exactly built for 3 wide racing, but somehow up here these guys are making it work.
And there's still 3 wide action here, and the guys in the middle of all of it, they're now 4 wide, and we got Cozy Jr. up top. We've also got Cody Kelly in them there, and they're spinning around now.
And that's going to bring out a caution. They almost had it saved. That was, I believe, the 15 of Jim Caudle Jr., who actually was the one that, when he went around and brought out the caution, Michael Cozy Jr. and Cody Kelly trapped behind him on that outside line, so they're going to lose a lot of positions. But gracious, that was a wreck that probably should have started over in turn 1. It ended over in turn 2.
Cody Kelly, I've got to say that the 99 machine of Cozy Jr. wasn't the way he wanted it. His car was clean. He had a fast running car, and now his front end is gone.
Michael Cozy Jr., who just last week had worked his way into the top 25 in points. And we had a car that was actually down the grass. I think that was actually the 79 of Harry Tiller that we're going to see. That was down on the apron of the front straightaway. as everything got checked up. And the eventual contact that brought out the caution, I think you're going to see right there. There it is, right there, as 0-1 came down and clipped the back end of the 15 of Cotto Jr. That's what brought the caution out, because up to that point, nobody really was facing sideways.
They weren't sideways, but they were 3 wide action back here for so long. You thought maybe they were going to just, at some point, give and take. It's still in the middle of the race, but once Cozy Jr. was on the high side, everyone started to panic, thinking we're going to go 4 wide, and that's when the chaos just started to spin out of control.
Cozy Jr. was running by himself in the second place position, trying to reel in Derek Justice. Do you think the staying out on older tires played into him getting so tight off the corner and brushing the wall?
I would imagine so. I mean, it's difficult when you're trying to hold off some of these machines that are trying to have fresher tires and trying to move up faster than what you are. But here's the one positive thing. If there wasn't any accident and if you weren't involved, you were able to come in, get fresher tires. You want fresher tires than the cars that pitted once before, but due to the accident and the cars that stayed out and that were involved in that wreck, it's difficult for you to really say that was a great choice to stay out previously.
At this point in time, only 4 drivers are still out there that had stayed out from that, what was it, 2 cautions ago. Derek Justice, Spencer Preet, Kevin McAdams, and Brandon McKissick. Guys behind them, Graham Boland, who I believe was one of the first to come to pit road 2 cautions ago. 10 laps difference of his tires and Derek Justice tires. He's now up to 5th. Blake Reynolds in 6th. Ryan Naraki is now up in 7th. Kyle Riley, who we saw have that amazing miss on the back straightaway, is now up to 8th. And remember we said Jake Poulin looked like he was in trouble, a guy that came into this race in a playoff spot. Well, all of a sudden, he's up there in 9th with Sean Butler in 10th.
I gotta say, though, that caution 2 laps ago that just collected so many machines, it's helped a lot of these guys that looked like they were having a rough time and allowing them to be up here in the top 10 now.
Yeah, I'm looking here at 3 drivers that were involved in that wreck that are up here inside of the top 15. Brandon Schmidt is going to be restarting in 12th, Chris Owens in 13th, and Grant Brown in 15th. So to your point, having another caution and an opportunity to pick up some spots, they remained on the lead lap, and now they find themselves up in a good position.
Got to give a shout out to Bronson Stafford, who's up to 11th, started 40th. He's been in the middle of a lot of this chaos, and it's been happening in front of him. He's got to have to slow down a couple of times to make sure he didn't slam in the back of someone, but he slowly has been working his way up.
Trying to see if he can get a GoPro car in victory lane in a GoPro sponsored race. But right now it is Derek Justice out in front. And I'm almost wondering, you know, with these pace laps that he's able to run under caution, would this give him the opportunity to make it the rest of the way on fuel? Or do you think he still is looking at one more pit stop fuel-wise?
I believe he still needs to come in at least one more time. As pace car pulls off, Derek Justice is going to be trying to make a move, but he did not get as much space as he was going to get previously, but gives Spencer Preet enough room to come down. And so, side-by-side action is for 3rd.
The difference of that restart as opposed to the other ones was Justice was not able to stack up that inside line. Kevin McAdams did a good job kind of laying off and not allowing Justice to stack him and the rest of that inside line up as he'll slot into 3rd. Graham Boland, who right now is the highest up with the freshest tires, if you can call 17 laps fresh. He right now is battling for that highest spot for the fresher tires, 4th place with Blake Reynolds.
Biggest loser on that restart is going to be Brandon McKissick because he got pushed up by Kevin McAdams. McAdams got a little tight, a little too much speed going in that first corner, and it pushed up that 36, and he is dropping back fast.
About to drop out of the top 10, going to lose 8th place to Sean Butler, just tucks in line in front of Kyle Riley, who runs in the 10th position. A little bit further up, though, Graham Boland. He's starting to put the pressure on the top 3. First on his hit list, the 26 of Kevin McAdams.
And right behind Boland's going to be Blake Reynolds. Both these guys were up in the top 3 for the start of this race before some strategy getting involved. 2 cautions got away. Speaking of caution, there's one out now.
Caution for the 6th time here tonight. And not quite sure who it was that brought it out.
It was the 56 machine of Tyler Bliddings. Greetings.
And I believe you're correct. That Napa Chevrolet, pretty mangled there on the back. We'll go back and see what happened to
Ooh,
him.
he got a little bit of help from the 46 machine.
And that would be, I believe, Jacob Fisher in the 46. Let's go back and see what happened. I think this was going into turn 3. Oh, yeah. Looked like it started out as netcode, perhaps, and then as the 56 lost momentum, Fisher continued to help to spin that race car around.
Looking like a couple of machines are coming in to get fresh rubber and get some gas. Those cars, I believe, going to be got a couple of cars that were up front, came in to get a little bit of fresh tire.
Yeah, Derek Justice, race leader, is one of them. Jake Boland, Kyle Riley, Bronson Stafford, Kevin McAdams, add them to that list, and that turns the race lead over to Spencer Preet, who is actually the only one that is still out there of those that had stayed out back on the second caution. He's been 32 laps out there now.
Gotta wonder, does Preet know something we don't know? I was looking at some of the tires that have been used during practice when some of these cars were doing some tests, and these tires were dropping so fast. After 50 laps of running, I was told by Shane Therien that it was about their tires were down to about 36% on their tires, so that means that they only had the bare minimum of grip left on those tires before they were completely shot. So that's something to watch out for. Is I don't think that this 37 could stay out all the way, even if he's trying to save his tires as much as he can.
Might be trying to pull a Hail Mary shot here, perhaps on strategy. Preet comes into this race 32nd in points, and he's only 54 points behind 25th in the standings as far as that cut line is concerned. So, you know, maybe he'd be able to hold off Graham Boland, but I mean, we saw Boland on the fresh tires and Blake Reynolds on the fresh tires. They reeled in the top 3 on that last restart. So something says to me, even though he's got the track position, I'm not sure Spencer Preet can hold off either the 18 or the 3, depending on which one's going to get alongside him first.
Yeah, you got to make sure that you hit your marks. You don't overdrive it. That's got to be the key for Preet. You cannot overdo it. If you're on these old tires, you're going to get beat. You just got to hit your marks and try to block the best you can and keep your car on the inside.
Couple of guys that have done a good job of coming back. Brian Mercurio, who was involved in an earlier caution, now up in the 6th position. Jacob Fisher, who had a little bit of contact there to bring out this latest caution, is up in 7th. And another go-home driver. How about the 09 of Stephen Aboa guy? He's currently up there in the 8th position. I mean, it's really amazing to me just how much of an impact a lot of these go-home guys make week after week.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun to watch as the go-homers seem to be up front battling with our top 2 of Blake Reynolds and Derek Justice, and it's cool to see how much they have been pressuring them. As Spencer Preet going to be getting a great start, he's now up front, and I think Blake Reynolds is going to be able to stay right on the edge of the 18 machine and is going to be there battling for second.
And they're 3 wide behind him. Jacob Fisher, Sean Butler, Brian Mercurio way up on the top side, losing spots. They're almost 4 wide coming off of 2, bouncing off each other, but somehow keeping it straight.
Balancing and spreading out as much as they can, as really we're seeing a lot of the action from 8 on back as they are just clustered up. One of the cars almost had issues there with Derek Justice, who's got the 09 up in the wall right next to him.
Well, Derek Justice, to me, I think he was Moses, and the rest of the field was the Red Sea, because it parted. He's worked his way from restarting 14th now up to 9th, and looking for more on Harry Tiller.
Yeah, he's trying to move up as much as he can, as everyone's so close to one another because of this restart. Trying to make as many moves, trying to get back to where he was up front. He's got the freshest tires, really, out of everyone up here. Everyone else is on about 28 old tires, while he's only on 6 old tires. He's got the freshest tires out here, and he can really make these moves.
talk about the guys of the go or go homers and the impact they make. Top 2 are drivers that fit that criteria. Right behind them, Blake Reynolds. And how about the 0-2 of Ryan Naraki up there in that 4th position? But he looks in his rearview mirror, sees a bright yellow Pennzoil machine, and Sean Butler hounding him down for a spot in the top 5.
A car that's just moving his way through. It's Derek Justice that he's also going to see in his mirror as Butler trying to make the move, trying to get the momentum off the corner, and he might be able to put his car under the 0-2, and he's going to try to outbrake him here, which he does.
We've got 34 laps to go. If you're Derek Justice, are you wanting to see this thing go green to the end with the advantage you have on fresh tires?
I would imagine so, but he just got into the wall once he got up to Jacob Fisher. He got up to the 46, and he just needed to get on his brakes a little bit, but he used the wall just slightly as he was getting back up, trying to battle it out for the 6th place. I think right now, with having such newer tires than everyone else, the next closest guy with fresher tires is actually going to be Jacob Fisher, as he is on 18 old tires as Fisher gets in the wall.
That opens the door, it kills his momentum, and Justice easily makes the pass. Justice just 1 position away from cracking the top 5. Another guy that's on the move, though, is Sean Butler. He just made a pass on Naraki, and caution is out for the 7th time.
Caution is out, and it's going to be for the 84 machine.
Cosmin Ishinoshu, who has really hit a bit of a cold streak here the last couple of weeks, and thus finds himself just outside of a playoff position.
It looked like it was the 61 machine getting a little bit into the 84, entering turn number 1.
This was a battle, I think, somewhere just inside of the top 20. And, ooh, wow, hard on the brakes. I think that was Andy Margot that was just able to get around on the outside. As Cosmin gets the car refired, continues on, but you can see that he's, I think he was involved in that big pileup over in turn 4 for our 2nd or 3rd caution. So this is the 2nd incident he's been involved in tonight.
And Spencer Preet could not make it last. He is coming into the pits to get his new tires and fuel. It was a good effort for him to stay out there as long as he did. We'll have to wait and see, as all the cars that are out there now, they're going to be on a much older tires. We've seen how Derek Justice has been moving up with fresher tires. How much is these new tires and going to help him, and is there enough time for him to get back up front?
See, that's what I was wondering was, did Derek Justice, because of the fresh tires, want this thing to go green to the end? Now if he's going to have to try and pick up 1 or 2 spots on restarts before the next caution flies, that might hinder him and might actually play into favor of guys like Graham Boland, Blake Reynolds, Sean Butler, and Ryan Araki. The only good thing I can see that's an advantage right now for Justice is with him lined up 5th, he is going to probably pick up at least 1, maybe 2 spots into turn 1 because he's going to be on that inside line.
Honestly, if this thing goes green and Spencer Preet is able to pass a lot of these machines in front of him that are on much older tires, this could become interesting as Derek Justice, he's got a 13 old tires compared to the guys in front of him that have about 34 laps on theirs.
Top 2 know each other very well. They finished 1st and 2nd to each other back at the Homestead Miami road course, although the roles were reversed. Blake Reynolds was ahead of Graham Boland at the time, so we'll see if Boland can get one up on Reynolds here. But we talked about Justice fighting his way through the field. At 35 of Sean Butler looked awfully fast as well, and I know that he's on older tires as opposed to Justice, but if he can get by these top 2, get enough space between himself and Derek Justice, I mean, we could be saying Sean Butler's name when the checkered flag flies.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think Sean Butler is waiting to see as these top 2 if they're going to make a mistake. Sean Butler is in a very good spot. He's starting 3rd. He's going to be on the inside. He isn't going to have to work as hard as Blake Reynolds is going to have to do and everyone else on the high side to come back down. But these top 4 cars, it's going to be interesting to see as it's only going to be 2 rows holding back Derek Justice.
Michael Cozy Jr. in the 99 was the recipient of the free pass there for this caution. And right now, the highest driver on fresh tires that came to pit road was, of course, Spencer Preet. He's going to be restarting up in 14th, so we had a lot of fun watching Derek Justice fight his way through the field on new tires. It's going to be fun to see what Spencer Preet can do with new Goodyears.
Yeah, and if this thing goes to the end without any cautions, Preet is in the best position compared to everyone else.
Field gets doubled up. It's going to be Graham Boland who's going to control this restart. Blake Reynolds lines up second. Sean Butler, Ryan Araki, your top four, with Derek Justice fifth. Kevin McAdams right there in sixth. He's on the same tire strategy as Derek Justice. The rest of the top 10 are Dylan Alt, Michael Frisch. He always appears at the end. He's eighth, with Brandon McKissick and Phil Kraus the top 10. Green flag in the air as we've got 26 to go.
Bolden got a great restart, but Blake Reynolds was just waiting for him to go so he could drop down as soon as possible. But I think the one thing to look out for is, did Reynolds drop down too soon? Is that going to be a penalty to watch out for? As all battling on is going to be happening from about fifth on back, as Derek Justice has already gotten up to fourth.
He moves to fourth. Dylan Alt looks to go to fifth place as Ryan Araki stuck on the outside. Behind them, you've got Brandon McKissick trying to take a spot away from Kevin McAdams. And if you look back there, you'll see him, that white and red machine of Spencer Preet. How long is it going to take for him to get back up in the top 10? Right now, he's still running in that 14th position.
Yeah, he's kind of boxed in with the car above him and in front of him. He has got nowhere to go, which is Preet. But up front, I think the car to watch out for is going to be Derek Justice, as he's starting to make a move on third place of Sean Butler.
Closing up the gap here is right now you got the top 6 drivers single file. Make it top 7 as McKissick completes the pass on McAdams, who now will tuck in line, throwing a block on Michael Frisch. So about maybe the top 9 cars are single file. But to your point, best battle brewings for third place. Derek Justice got a good run off of 4, looking to the inside and 1.
Gotta give credit to Frisch. He started back in 38th to start this race. He's been back there most of the race, it seems like, and now up to 9th. But side-by-side action, is looks like they're almost about to go 3 wide, back around to 8th place.
And we nearly, I thought we were going to have a wreck right there. Sean Butler trying to throw a block on Derek Justice and nearly hooked himself off the nose of that Baskin-Robbins Toyota. But they will get side-by-side for the third position into turn 1. Not sure that Sean Butler can hold off the newer tires of Derek Justice.
Is Derek Justice now underneath the 35 machine? Update on Spencer Preet, though. He's up into the top 10 and still moving quick, as he is moving up and getting close to these cars that are on 20 laps older tires than what he's on.
They are 3 wide further back, though, so we may not be done with cautions. They settle it out back to double wide. I believe that was the 21 of Evan Brinker that was in the middle of that 3 wide situation, a number of others, but they settle it out for the moment as we have hit 20 laps to go. Oh, we got a wreck. Oh, did they save it?
I believe so.
That was the 0-2 of Naraki, I know, that got the wall pretty good.
Rocky's still staying high, and they're 3 wide back there trying to sort things out, but Rocky, that is not the way you're wanting your race to go, as he is slammed the wall hard and drifting all the way back to the back of the pack.
Outside the top 20, about to fall out of the top 25, losing all that momentum. But right now, you've got up front Graham Boland. He's got about a car length back to Blake Reynolds, and then closing in on these 2 is Derek Justice in that 31. But Justice has to figure out a way to get by these guys, because it's certainly probably not going to be in the corners.
Less than 20 laps to go. Spencer Preet up to 7th place, but Derek Justice with the fresher tires up front. Up front, these leaders are on about 45 old lap tires, and Derek Justice, he's on 24 old lap tires, so that's something to watch out for. But this 18 machine has been doing a great job holding cars back. I haven't seen anyone pass the 18 all race long.
I see a lot of times at these type of tire wear tracks, though, even though you look at the numbers and you can see Derek Justice has 21 lap fresher tires, sometime at some point you get into a long enough run, it's almost like the tire wear evens out. Do you think that we're at that point for Justice, or do you think Justice still has enough tire rubber to get up there with these top 2?
You gotta wonder if Justice is trying to save his tires, knowing that Preet is gonna be charging. And you gotta wonder, maybe it's the fact that he's just trying to get back into a rhythm, or he's waiting to see if these top 2 are gonna try to make some action. and dice back and forth and possibly make a mistake.
Think about it too. We're going to have 15 laps to go. If we get a late race caution, if he continues to just ride there in third place, he's going to be second car on the inside line on a late restart. So maybe he's thinking about that too.
I mean, a lot of these cars are still very close to one another. You got Spencer Preet trying to make moves and to move up, but he's being boxed in as two cars are side by side there for about 6th place.
And he's getting impatient. He almost took Dylan Alden, Brandon McKissick 3 wide off 4 that last time. Now going to be able to make a move on Alt as McKissick will clear for the spot, move McKissick up to 5th. Preet now looking for 6th. The bad news, though, for Spencer Preet, 2 things. Number 1, he's losing track position to Derek Justice. Number 2, the laps are ticking down quickly.
You gotta wonder, though, if once Spencer Preet gets by these 2 cars, he's gonna have a little bit of open space, and he's gonna be able to catch these guys once he gets by them, but he's got to get by McKissick and Butler, who have been looking strong, as we're seeing 37 get below 36.
He's going to get alongside of McKissick at least. Can he clear him by the time they get to turn 1? Yes, he will. Wow, easily makes that pass. As now he sets his sights on Sean Butler for the 4th position. But this all going on about nearly 10 car lengths behind the top 3.
And caution is out. This is exactly what Justice wanted to see.
And I believe it was on the back straightaway. Brandon Schmidt, Chris Owens, and possibly the 27 of Franklin Ash involved in this one. Now, what's the old saying? This changes everything.
It really does, as now we're going to be coming into this with less than probably 10 laps to go. Going to be really no patience for anybody as we're getting here to the end.
Hard hit there for Bronson Stafford. It really was just a case of Chris Owens getting really loose off the corner. He slides down, collects Bronson Stafford. They both hit the wall pretty good, and actually the other driver involved, I believe there was the 47 of Warren Keith, who got a late hit into the 45 car. So a 3-car incident out of turn 2 and onto the back straightaway, puts us under the caution for the 8th time and sets us up for a restart with less than 10 to go.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for both Stafford and Keith. Keith really was expecting the 45 to hold the brake, but did not let his car roll out, and Keith had nowhere else to go.
All right, then, so we're going to be going green with less than 10 to go. Are we racing for the checkers, or are we racing for the next caution?
I would imagine, since we're going to have less than 10 laps to go, we're racing to another caution. I don't think, this is short track racing, I cannot imagine that we're going to make it to the end without someone using their bumper, getting a little aggressive. I mean, we've seen the aggression in the middle of the pack, but imagine what we're going to be seeing Derek Justice or Spencer Preet, these guys that have newer tires than the cars up front. They're going to be trying to use all they've got, using their bumper and trying to get by everyone.
We mentioned Richmond's a short track racing. A lot of times, in order to get by somebody, you move them out of the way. We've seen them use the rear bumpers for blocks. We've seen them use the sides of the cars to kind of pinch somebody down. We haven't seen a whole lot of moving out of the way in this race, but then again, a win at that point was not quite on the line. It is now, and I'm looking at the way these guys are going to line up, and depending on how good a restart Blake Reynolds gets, the 3 guys that I'm looking at that could be our ones to battle it out for the win are all going to be starting in the first 3 rows on the inside line. Leader Graham Boland, Derek Justice will restart 3rd, and Spencer Preet, the highest up with the freshest tires, restarting in 5th.
Something to note on last restart, Blake Reynolds was hugging that 18 machine right next to him coming off the corner where they were about to go green, waiting for the 18 to just get by him so he could drop down as fast as possible. I think right now we got to see Derek Justice being right on the back bumper, not allowing that to happen. If you can keep Blake Reynolds on the high side, Derek Justice, that's one position you can get, and then you've got one less to get to the lead.
And you questioned on that restart if Reynolds moved down too low. Obviously, he has not been served with an EOL, so obviously that was clean and legal. So again, to your point, he would love to be able to do that same thing now, but Justice has to make sure he does not let him in. The way they're going to line up here for this restart, potentially the final restart of the night. Graham Boland, the race leader. Blake Reynolds will line up to his outside. Derek Justice 3rd, Sean Butler 4th, Spencer Preet in 5th, Brandon McKissick right now in 6th, Dylan Alden 7th, Michael Frisch in 8th. Brian Mercurio will be 9th, and completing the top 10 is Jake Poole. And if we go a little bit further back, some guys that might pop up in the top 10 in the latter stages: Jacob Fisher 11th, Philip Kraus in 12th, Travis Brown, Adam Baker, and Grant Brown the top 15. Michael Cozy Jr., after getting back on the lead lap, has battled back up to 16th. Harry Tiller 17th. Brandon Schmidt is in 18th. Stephen Aboagi is in 19th, and Andrew Schwartz completes the top 20. And I'm looking through all of these, and I counted on my fingers at least 8 drivers that have been involved in wrecks tonight that are still up in the top 20.
And we're green. Boland getting a fantastic start, but it's going to be Spencer Preet that got the best one out of everyone as we're going 3 wide into turn number 1.
Derek Justice in the middle, Butler way up top side, they're 3 wide, 4 wide, further back there. That's McKissick way up on the outside line. Top 3
there's
get
the
away.
accident. 46 gets spun around, and that's caution.
Jacob Fisher right in the middle of the field. Ryan Naraki got caught up in that one as well. I think we may have only had 2 cars involved in that wreck, and based on how deep in the field it was with all the cars around it, I'm shocked that's the only drivers that were in it.
It looked like it started with McKissick getting into the wall, and from there on out, chaos ensued.
We mentioned Richmond isn't really supposed to hold him 3 wide. It's definitely not supposed to hold him 4 wide, and you'll see here on the replay, McKissick was up on the outside line in a 4 wide situation, so a little bit not surprised he brushed the wall there off him too. I mean, where else is there to go?
I gotta say, I think some of these cars in the back of the pack had a bunch of a scare, as the 46 actually had a ton of net code that allowed cars to drive through him instead of getting a lot more damage than they should have gotten.
Kevin McAdams and Justin Malello fall into that category as they went through him. There might have been a little bit of contact there and a little bit of damage sustained by the 09 of Stephen Abogi, as well as I believe it was the 21 of Evan Brinkler. But to your point, yeah, a lot of drivers actually dodged a bullet there going through his car.
All right, back up front. No one's going to be coming to the pits unless you're about 15th on back, which I wouldn't imagine any of them would be, as we are coming to the end of this thing. I think this might be like green-white checkered based on... No, it matters on if the lights go out this time on the pace car.
And to go back to that restart, Spencer Preet had that 3 wide move, moved him from 5th up to 3rd. And now he is going to be the 2nd car on that inside line. Derek Justice, on the other hand, is going to be restarting 4th. He's going to be up on the top side. So, I mean, right now, everything is looking like it's advantage Spencer Preet, but he hasn't passed that 18 of Graham Boland just yet.
I think this might be turning into a green-white checker. The lights are still not out on the pace car. But the car to watch out for has got to be Spencer Preet coming to the end of this thing. I mean, that was a power move to go 3 wide and to pass Justice, and that was crazy to see. But he's got the tires to do it compared to everyone else.
Trying to quickly look here, and at least to my knowledge, I may be wrong in this, but I believe the best finish so far this season for Spencer Preet, surprise, surprise, another short track, finished 5th place at South Boston. So he obviously knows how to finish well at these short tracks, and he'd love to be able to get himself a W here. Would make it the 3rd go or go home driver to take a checkered flag here this season.
Spencer Preet trying to continue with if you're a go homer and you qualify for a race, you got a chance of winning it. I think, though, if you're in the top 25, you got to wonder, can we even get a win with these go homers that are trying to qualify in this time?
It's quite possible. I'm looking here too at the possibility of Graham Boland maybe going to victory lane. He's further down in points than Spencer Preet. Preet's 32nd in points. Boland is 47th. But we definitely know that if you win this race, it pays out a huge amount of points. That's how Michael Cozy Jr. was able to jump up so high in the point stands and eventually get himself in the top 25 in the stands. And to my knowledge, Boland and Preet show up every single week and try and make their way in through knockout queues. So for either one of them, a win would go a long ways towards helping them to try and snatch away a playoff position here at the end of the regular season.
Beth, do my eyes deceive me, or are we about to have a 1-lap shootout to end this thing?
The lights are out atop the pace truck, so you know you are not seeing things.
Spencer Preet. He's got to pass 2 cars in 1 lap Well, he's got the fresher tires to do so, but it's going to be a one-lap shootout with the 18 machine taking the green.
Either bring home the trophy or the steering wheel here as they're 3 wide back there. Dylan Alt and Spencer Butler or Sean Butler rather, were both spinning the tires. Blake Reynolds was able to tuck down in second place. All mayhem breaking behind them as the top 4 single file.
Top 4 still single file, but the caution's going to be, I don't think it's going to be a caution, but there's going to be a chaos behind. Who will survive? Spencer Creed going to be getting under. Blake Reynolds trying to go for second, but up front, it's going to be Graham Boland getting the win here at Richmond.
They wrecked from turn 3 all the way over to turn 4, and Graham Boland, look at this. He and Blake Reynolds doing a little synchronized slide through turns 1 and 2. But Graham Boland, the 3rd non-playoff contender, that's a pretty cool burnout. That's not even the burnout.
That's just him drifting around. There is so much chaos to go back and look at the end of this thing as chaos ensued coming off of turn number 2 on this one-lap shootout. But congratulations, Graham Boland, who really, he was the car that no one could pass during this whole entire race.
Drivers smoking, damaged coming across the start-finish line there, just trying to finish this race out as Graham Boland and David Shieldhouse gonna do a little nose-to-nose burnout here in front of this Richmond crowd. And to your point, as these guys burn it down here at Richmond, there's a lot to cover that went on there on that last lap. I don't even know where the incident even started. I mean, there were like 20 cars littered from turn 3 all the way over into turn 4 exit.
I believe it starts with Pissick and Frisch coming off the corner. They both get into one another, and then Frisch got into the 41, and that's when it all started.
Focus here on the 58. And I mean, all this even started over in turn 1. I mean, they were 3 wide and 4 wide going into the first corner here. There you see him 3 wide, 2 rows deep, and something just had to give here. And it looks like Brian Mercurio got caught up in that one. He hits the wall hard, and then the track's just blocked up. Nowhere for the 79 to go. Further up there, I think that's Cosmin Shinoshu that went up into the wall. I couldn't tell who it was that was collected with him.
Yeah, I mean, if we really want to go all the way back to see how it all backed up everyone and got us all 4 wide going into turn number 1, it started out with Alt and Butler tapping one another, getting loose, jacking everyone else up, and they had to make spaces for everyone. So everyone went 4 wide in turn 1, and madness and chaos ensued.
Boy, you talk about chaos? I'm pretty certain, we're going to have to look, but I'm pretty certain the 27 of Franklin Ash actually hit the pit wall.
That's impressive.
I mean, I've seen it happen before, but my gracious. There's the rest of the wreck there with Andrew Schwartz, Brandon Schmidt, Baker in the 87. And we're going to quickly look back here and see about that 27 car, because I'm pretty certain that he went up in the air after hitting the water barrels there. He almost had the wreck avoided, and he got clipped by somebody that sent him down. Oh, there it is right there. He got clipped by the 79. And then he gets into the 46 of Fisher, into the 48 of Margot. And actually, his car got lifted up into the air and landed on top of those sand barrels.
Yeah, it looked like he might have hit some type of coating from the cone that might have helped him go up. Also having a little bit of assist from the 48. So, yeah, it's an interesting ride to go on. That is for sure.
Let's take a look here at our full finishing results from tonight's race here at Richmond. And I have to say, obviously we had quite a number of cautions. I think it was 9 total cautions, but we had some really long green flag runs there too, which was really impressive as Boland brings it home with the win. Spencer Preet in second. Third place for Blake Reynolds. Derek Justice right there in fourth. These guys can't get away from each other no matter how hard they try, it seems.
No, they really can't.
as they're going to finish top 5. Sean Butler there in 5th. Dylan Alt, he was kind of a mainstay up there in the top 10 all night, showed great speed. He gets 6th. 7th for Philip Kraus. Jake Poulin, a good comeback for him after early struggles in 8th. Brandon McKissick in 9th. And remember we told you, I think it was one caution before that restart, that Michael Cozy Jr. was the free pass car. He finished in the 10th position, made it through all the mayhem.
Yeah, I mean, he was there were a lot of cars that had to try to make it through that mayhem, and he was one of them, and good for him to make it. I mean, he had some issues where he fell back, hit strategies, and he was able to battle his way back up to the front.
Go or go homers, Travis Brown and Grant Brown there in 11th and 12th. Kyle Riley, after some near misses, gets 13th. Joey Bailey 14th. Kevin McAdams brings it home at 15th. Rest of your top 20 were Brandon Schmidt, David Shieldhouse, Brian Mercurio, Shane Tyrion, and Evan Brinker. As we look at the rest of the finishing results, I do believe we have our top 3 on standby here.
As we do.
And let's kick things off here with a third place finisher, Blake Reynolds. Hey, Blake, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir.
Wild race here tonight at Richmond. Seemed like a lot of it was all about track position, but a lot of drivers were saying that the setup was loose to start. We got ourselves into long green flag runs. After you were able to get about 10, 15 laps of heat into those tires, then how did it feel?
Well, the set in the daytime really sucked, especially qualifying in the warm-up. But as the track turned to nighttime, it just really improved. I don't really know how to describe how it got better, but it just got better. I was in team with Graham the whole race, and he agreed with me. Something about it just felt way better when it turned nighttime. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, we were trying to save tires that whole time, but we just never got the green flag runs to really, use the tires. So, yeah, we just tried to hang on there, and then of course at the end I finally lose that spot to Spencer. So kind of a little mad about that, but it doesn't matter.
We saw that especially on restarts and even in those long green flag runs, there just was no run to be had on that outside line. So when you got closer to the end of the race, knowing we were probably going to get a couple of late yellows, did you in any way strategize to maybe have yourself in an odd numbered position so that way you guaranteed you were going to start on the inside?
Well, I couldn't really position myself because I don't know. It's just really hard to do in iRacing because you can't really see your live position. So yeah, I just kind of pray and hope that that happens. Obviously, I can't control people pitting or staying out or whatever. So yeah, that is a thing in my mind, but I can't really control that.
Yeah, I mean, Blake, it was a great run. You looked like you had a dominant car at the start. Was there anything you really had for that 18 machine? Because it looked like no one could pass him.
I felt like I could do just about anything I wanted. I was just sitting behind him because Graham is really good at carving his way through the field, and I was just going to follow him through there. And then at the end there, we really didn't want Derek Justice to win, so he was counting me down on the restarts. But it wasn't Derek to worry about; it was Spencer. So Spencer just got up through there and took it away from me. But at the end there, it was just kind of fun to race the Graham. I felt like we were on an even playing field, and that was about it.
Well, a great third place run here tonight, surviving the chaos of Richmond. Next week, we're going to Talladega, which a lot of people kind of consider a wild card track. So, I mean, with the momentum you've got here, does something like that help you as far as confidence going into a super speedway? Or is it really, you're kind of like, well, it's a super speedway. I have to be ready for anything. I'll feel confident when I'm leading coming out of turn 4 on the final lap.
Well, for league racing, at least when it comes to plate tracks, and I'm pretty confident I can get into the playoffs now. Me and Derek are pretty solidly up in the points, so I would say for my strategy next week, like wreck or you're in, or I mean no, I'm tired. Uh, uh, yeah, win or wreck. That's probably my thing. I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna make it 5 wide. There's no double yellow line rules, so we can have fun with that. So
That's Blake Reynolds. He brings it home with yet another top 5 run, third place here tonight at Richmond. Anybody you want to shout out here?
sure. My I'm an eNASCAR Coke Series driver. My team on there is Team Dillon Esports. We're sponsored by awesome partners in Coca-Cola beneath Realtree, Sparko, StockX, and of course Austin Dillon is my team owner. And then I'll thank Graham there. Graham helped me a lot at the end of that race with the countdowns, as I previously said. And then my team owner for FTF, we're on Scuderia something, I forgot. It's Kyle Riley's team. I'm sure everyone knows who that is. And then I guess I gotta thank Jessica Shelton for getting me banned from this team speak, and you guys had to unban me.
That's Blake Reynolds, brings it home third, survives the chaos of Richmond. Hopefully he can survive the chaos of Talladega, and we may talk to you again next week.
All right, thank you.
And let's bring in second place finisher Spencer Preet. Spencer, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Well, my first question was I was gonna ask how difficult it was in the fresher tires to have patience, but we saw you take them 3 wide 2 different times there on those restarts. I mean, it definitely looked like the fresher tires helped you to be able to make some really aggressive maneuvers.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I wasn't going to make any of those moves stick if I was on the same tires as everyone else. Um, I was just really frustrated because, it felt like at the time I had to pit, but so many people stayed out. I was like, damn, because I was in a really good spot with the way everything had shuffled around, and I was able to hold off Graham that one run where we went a good few laps before the yellow flew. So, and I was on older tires then, so it felt like the right call. In the end, it was the right call because I don't think I would have been able to hold him off for the next 30 laps or however long we had left when I did pit. But yeah, with the fresh tires, I was just trying to get all I could. I wasn't letting any opportunity slip away from there on the last 30 laps.
We saw, especially in the long green flag runs, where it seemed like if you were going to make a pass on anybody, you had to get that straightaway speed and be able to carry that to get to the inside going into the corner. Was that possible at all with the older tires, or did you have to have that fresh rubber to make those kind of moves?
It was possible. We only really had one run where the tires wore enough to where I felt like I had saved my stuff, and I was in a position where after we got a certain distance into the run, I was able to keep, my foot in the throttle a little bit more than everyone else off exit. And but that only really happened one time tonight where we went long enough for that to transpire. So I, never really had an opportunity to start picking them off on a long run. Early on when everyone's on the same stuff and it's relatively fresh, it's really tough to pass. You definitely have to set them up usually off of 4. Since that front stretch is curved, you can kind of gain some time if you get to the inside of someone and make that pass into 1 a lot more doable.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer, at the end of the race, you really had the fresher tires than everyone else. But at the start of the race, it was difficult. We were hearing from a lot of drivers. It was really loose. How was it for you at the start trying to make your way up through the field?
Oh, I mean, I think it was like 3 laps in, and I almost had a moment off it too. Yeah, I mean, it was hard to drive, but those are my kinds of setups. I feel like when you really have to be razor focused the whole way, or else one slip up, you're fenced. So it was tough, but it was fun. And when it got darker and the temps cooled down a little bit, it gripped up, and it was fast at the end.
Spencer, you bring it home in a second place run here tonight. Obviously, a great drive through the field there. I think you started 14th on those fresh tires and obviously worked your way up to second place there at the end. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
Yeah, I just want to shout out everyone at FTF that puts this on. A shout out to everyone in the Discord that was with me tonight: David, Cozy, Travis, Harry. I think that was everyone. Shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast.
All right, that's Spencer Preet. He brings it home in the second position. We documented, you came into this race in the 32nd position in points, going to gain a lot of points here tonight, and maybe get you one step closer to getting into that coveted top 25 position.
That's the hope.
And let's get our race winner, Graham Boland. Graham, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah.
Well, so far this season, we have had two go or go home drivers go to victory lane. You become the third. And I was just looking back through the stats too. You've made 2 starts, not counting tonight. Both starts up inside the top 5 for your finishing result. I mean, with the win here tonight, it just kind of feels like if the consistency can continue to happen, you keep making the main event races. We're going to see you highlighted in yellow for a playoff spot pretty soon.
Yeah, that would be good. I would have to start 12 races though, but I feel like I can do that with I don't know how many races are left, but hopefully I can make the playoffs in time before they start.
It's a lot of varying tire strategies there with the timing of some of those cautions, especially after long green flag runs. Was this one of those short track type races where it was track position over tires?
It depends on how many laps you do on the tires. Like when you're like 2 tenths off, I would say pit, but it always depends on like how long is left in the race and other stuff like that.
Yeah, Graham, it looked like at the start of the race you were. I gotta ask, were you trying to save your tires at the start of this race, or were you just trying to hold everyone else back as much as you could?
I was trying to save tires. I was just filling out the set too, see what it felt like that first run. The second run, I picked up the pace a little bit, and then uh, other than that, it was short runs to the end, so it kind of favored me. Kind of.
Definitely did. You did a tremendous job there on that last restart, holding off a lot of fresher tires behind you to pick up the checkered flag here tonight at Richmond. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
Thank you, Ryan Cook, JJ DeMonto from JGR and Joe Gibbs Racing, and Rowdy Energy and Interstate Buyers.
All right, that is Graham Boland. He brings it home here tonight, P1 at Richmond. Congratulations, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to talk to you in the upcoming weeks. We got Talladega coming up, but obviously I think right now the goal for you, get yourself up there in the top 25 and get a playoff spot. So good luck.
Yeah, thank you, Seth.
And that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight from Richmond International Raceway. And we alluded to it a little bit just before the uh, driver interviews, but in terms of a short track and based off the setup that we knew these drivers were going to have to be having underneath them, they did a heck of a job giving us some pretty long green flag racing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm extremely surprised with how well they were doing at the start of the race. I mean, you could tell with the cautions coming in at the end, it was just because we're coming to the end of the race, tempers are going to flare up, patience is going to wear out. But at the start, very impressed by these drivers and how well they were trying to keep this very loose machines under themselves. And yeah, we saw a couple of cars having issues here and there. We saw Spencer Pre earlier on almost lose it, but keeping it under himself and getting a decent finish. Gotta say, very impressed by these drivers tonight.
And I know it's still a long ways to go here in the regular season, but we've seen at the time go or go home driver like Michael Cozy last week. We had Brandon Hawken here tonight. We have Boland. I mean, I'm looking here at the playoff stands, and one name that I'm noticing that didn't start tonight that was down there near the cutoff line is Kane Cook. After tonight, is he out of the top 25 in points? Does somebody else move into one of those playoff positions? That'll be interesting to see. And of course, also, it'll be interesting to follow the story of Graham Boland as he will try and make his way into the top 25, much like Michael Cozy Jr. did last week, to guarantee himself a spot in the season's playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, you also got to worry about last week's winner at Spa Hawkins. He's going to be a car to watch out for if he's able to make the rest of these races to possibly make it in to the end of this end of playoffs time.
Absolutely, but it is Graham Boland who is the man of the night here at Richmond International, putting that Interstate Batteries Toyota in victory lane. That's going to conclude the coverage tonight from Richmond, but we will be back next week as we're going to be bringing you all the action from the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway. That's going to be a fun one. You're not going to want to miss it. Sam, as always, a pleasure to have you in the booth with me.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
And thank you to everybody that tuned in here tonight. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast. For Samuel Dyer, I am Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast here brought to you by the Flatout Racing Network.